it is about these artists at that time, like during the civil rights era, that made them more conscious of what was going on around
I
them?
think you had the Jim Crow laws that made them understand what people were trying to do in terms of their position in life. You can't go here, you can't do that, you can't do this, and I think it was the music that, and let's go back further to slavery, right? Mm-hmm. So during that time, they didn't allow us to read. So what do we have? We had our music that we had to take from the homeland, and that was our way of communicating, to the point where as music was a way of a tool to escape. Oh, now why this come on, Mario? Oh my goodness. But I said, you know what, Dr. Lisa, mental health awareness should be every single month. Tonight, we are talking about schizophrenia. We really did not take it as a serious medical condition.
One thing's for sure, people take Black Friday very seriously.
We looked at it as someone was possessed by the devil.
I think we can arrange that.
Someone put some roots on them and they lost their mind.
Please hold. Your curse will be answered in the order it was received.
It could have been induced by a bad drug that they took.
Drugs are bad.
Drugs are bad.
Drugs are bad.
And schizophrenia is a chronic brain disorder that affects less than 1% of the U.S. population. Symptoms can include delusions. Those are those delusions I was talking about. Hallucinations, disorganized speech, trouble with thinking, and lack of motivation. Basically, there is a chemical imbalance of neuron transmitters in your brain. All right. So that's basically what schizophrenia is in a nutshell. I was like, wait a minute, that's Dr. John Nash. He was a brilliant, and when I say brilliant, a brilliant man. He was a professor at Princeton University, but he was challenged with schizophrenia. One of my favorite artists of all time, Vincent van Gogh. Oh,
Yeah.
He did most of his creative artwork in the psychiatric hospital. Start looking and listening for signs. Don't belittle them and just say, oh, they're a dime short, or the elevator doesn't reach the top floor. That's very insensitive, and it really does not help the situation of that person seeking and having a therapist. Don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. Don't give up on your purpose. Don't give up on your passions. Don't give up.
But the biggest thing is always keep doing your homework. Don't get comfortable, because there's always new ways to do something. And that's the best way to learn, is to keep, informing and teaching yourself, and be professional at all times. And just, don't give up.
Don't give up. That's just like that clip at the beginning. Don't give up. That is the key. Don't give up.
Do not give up.
Don't give up. If you know your purpose in life,
You should never give up.
you keep pushing that plow. Keep putting your hand and pushing that plow.
We're not going to give up.
It's not going to come just by osmosis, in a sense,
We must not give up.
or just by you saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that.
Never give up.
Ніколи не здавайся. Ніколи не здавайся.
You have to work hard at it. And you can do it.
I won't give up. I know we can do this together.
All right. I think we're actually having a little bit of technical difficulty with Dr. Lisa's camera. Her internet was acting up a little bit earlier. So I'm going to play another clip, check on that, and we'll be right back.
Girl, thank Google.
I Googled my symptoms.
Never do that.
And I really would love to get that out of my brain.
I've seen it. It's disgusting.
Something about Elisa. There's something about Elisa.
Oh, Lisa.
Sweet. I love that. Like, oh, dun, 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 dun. Yes. You have to be accountable for what you did.
Who, me? What? I regret nothing. The end.
Did I do something I shouldn't have done?
It's confusing.
What?
Am I missing something?
What the hell is going on? Like, I
do not understand.
What is this woman talking about?
What you talking about, Willis?
I don't want a dissertation. I just want an apology.
I'm sorry you think you deserve an apology.
You deserve 2 flushes. Get out of here, Uncle Tina. Bye. All right, so now he's blaming the weed. This is the whole Shaggy thing. It wasn't me. Hello. Oh my goodness. Yes, I am back in the Urban Suite, the original Urban Suite. You are here with me, Dr. Lisa Lacan. Welcome, 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 welcome. Oh my goodness. Listen, tonight we are talking about a topic that really hits home to me as a mom, as someone who has worked with youth. And I'm just, you know what? I can't wait to introduce this gentleman, Dr. Richard Mason. He's going to be in the Urban Suite tonight. We're talking about youth fragility. What exactly is it? So after these messages, we will be right back with more of the Urban Suite. Thank you. We'll be right back. Stay with us. You are entering the Urban Suite with Dr. Lisa Lacan. Let's talk about urban issues plaguing our community.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
Let's talk about mental health. Lisa. Oh, Lisa. Well, Lisa is back. The doctor is back. I'm back. So you all know, I don't know if you all know, but let's see. Last week I was in Virginia, and then the week before that I was in New Orleans because I went to the Essence Festival of Culture. That right there, talking about that is in a show of itself, because let me tell you, the things that I saw and witnessed, and a lot of, you know what, I'm just going to say this about the people in New Orleans. How can I say this without getting into trouble?
Be careful now.
I am. I'm okay. They're very interesting. Very interesting. But on the serious side, what I assess, because, you know, when you work in the field for a long time, you can kind of pinpoint if people have some type of mental health challenge. I actually see a lot of its residents in New Orleans having mental health challenges. Now, of course, I don't know what the challenges are. I don't know what their diagnosis is or anything like that, but I think it's very prevalent. Like I said, I've been in the field for a very long time. I can kind of sense but anyway, tonight in the Urban Suite, we have Dr. Richard Mason. Now, it's very interesting because he wears several hats. He's a licensed professional counselor. He sits on the Board of Education for the city of Hampton in Hampton, Virginia, as well as he's the chair of the mental health department at Hampton University. So I really wanted a perspective from someone who is knowledgeable about K through 12 because of his role with the Board of Health. And then as a professor, working with and dealing with students that are maybe like 17 upward, because when I first entered college, I was 17. So that's why I said 17. And then in his role as a licensed professional counselor and LPC, he's working with, I guess, primarily youth also perhaps maybe their families. So he has a whole perspective from K through 12, and then from after the 12th grade, that freshman year and what's happening with our collegiate students. Now, I'm going to be honest. The reason why I really wanted to do this show is I was having dinner with a professor, and she teaches at another HBCU, a historically Black college university. And she said something which was very profound. She's been teaching for a very long time, but she said this is the first year that she really experienced the students being so fragile. And I thought about that, and I'm like, where is this fragility coming from? And we're going to dive into it with Dr. Richard Mason. So, producer, are we bringing him up now, or are we going out? What's happening? Because I know we were having technical difficulties. What's happening?
Right. Let's go with the missing person. Let's take a quick break. We'll go for the missing person, and then we'll be back.
Perfect. All right. So we'll be right back after these messages.
Grand Rising, everyone. My name is Kareem Green with Cage Agency, the generous giver of good news, and you're watching Urban Tool for Change Network.
All right, so we are back, and this is our segment where we are highlighting someone that's missing. So anyone new to the Urban Suite, I always, every time I go live, I do the missing person segment, and tonight is no exception. So tonight we have Kenya Jones. Kenya Jones, she's been missing since 7/10/2023, which was actually yesterday, from Washington, D.C., my hometown. Listen, you Washingtonians, I need you to look at her face. She's only 11 years old. I need you to share this information. All right. So let's read about Miss Kenya Jones. She's only 11 years old, missing from Washington, D.C. She's a female. Her race is Black. Her complexion is medium. Her height is 4'11". She is 120 pounds. Her hair color is Black. Her hair length, shoulder length, and her eye color is brown. Kenya Jones was last seen at the 4500 block of Quarles Street in Northeast DC at 12 p.m. on July 10th, wearing a Black hoodie, Black shorts, and tan Nikes. She also has Black and blonde shoulder length dreads. Now, the circumstances surrounding her disappearance is unknown, but I need you again to look at this picture. She's only 11 years old. And anyone with information, please contact the Metropolitan Police Department at area code 202-727-9300. 9099. Now, I'm going to repeat that number for my Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon, all of those platforms. That number is 202-727-9099. Or you can contact the Black and Missing Foundation Incorporation. That's BAMFI at 877-97-BAMFI. Listen, let's bring Kenya Jones home. All right, so moving right along. All right, so youth fragility. So listen, you guys, my urbanites, you all know I've been talking about AI technology and stuff like that. So I said, you know what, let me try this AI technology. So I said, I logged into Chat GPT and I said, how do you define youth fragility? And this is what Chat GPT came up with. Youth fragility refers to the vulnerability and susceptibility of young individuals to physical, emotional, social, and spiritual challenges. Now, I added spiritual because Chat GPT, I don't think they has a soul. Anyway, that's what I did. So I want to bring out the Dr. Richard Mason, who works with the youth in different capacities in this youth fragility. The suicidal rate amongst the youth is really increasing. I want to know why. What's happening? I remember back in the day when I was young, we really didn't hear about that many people, especially Black children, wanting to end their life. So let's bring Dr. Richard Mason out from behind the curtain. Hello there, doctor. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so very much for being here in the Urban Suite.
I am excited to be here. So
good.
And I love the energy, the bell, I tell you.
Oh, you haven't heard anything else. Wait till later on. You may hear some other sound effects that I have.
Okay.
All right. So I think I got it right. You are Dr. Richard Mason. You are a licensed professional counselor. Mm-hmm. You are the chair of the mental health department at Hampton University, as well as you are a board member of the Board of Education. What is the correct terminology with the Board of Ed?
Yeah, it's the Hampton City School Board, and I'm actually chairman of the board.
Oh, you're chair. Oh, all right now. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So youth fragility. Mm-hmm. Like I said earlier, I had a conversation with a friend over dinner, and we were talking about, I can't remember if it's our children and what was happening with our children nowadays. And the professor, she was saying that this was one of the, I guess, during this time span where she's been teaching, this generation has been the most, I guess, susceptible to being fragile, like lacking the resilience to want to move on. Now, it's interesting because I ran across a statistic from NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, and they said that 60% of the students that withdraw from college withdraw based on mental health challenges. That's like more than 50%. So let's get into this. I have a couple of questions to ask you because you're the expert in this arena. I don't work with the youth for the most part. That's not my area of expertise. So I just want to know, as a person who works sometimes with the family dynamic, but because I have children and I have friends that have children, they need to know about what is happening with the youth. So one of the first questions I have for you, what are the leading factors contributing to this high youth fragility, or even the children now wanting to take their life? What's happening?
Well, the two different things. When you talk about fragility, that's one area that I would say kind of stems just from how we parent our children nowadays. But then also when you're talking about youth suicide, that's a whole nother conversation. And I'll start with the fragility piece. One of the things we have to look at as it relates to fragility, we are dealing now with the results of Every Child Gets a Trophy, helicopter parenting, those types of things, whereas we don't allow our children to fail. And sometimes these children, they don't know what failure looks like. So they get to college and they have a professor who is holding their feet to the fire, holding them accountable, or they're having to do things. I don't know what it was like for you when you got to Hampton. My mother dropped me off, and she left. Okay. She loved me, hugged me, cried, and got in the car. Okay. And that was the same way with my roommate and some of my friends as well. Our parents just kind of brought us in, put our stuff in the dorm room, and they got up out of there. Now parents stay for a week. They go by the Target, the Walmarts. They buy a ton of things. They decorate the rooms. They go and meet the professors. It's a ton of different things that we're doing now that isn't allowing our students to actually grow. And it starts at a very young age. We have to make sure that we teach our students how to advocate for themselves, how to work hard, and how to build that resilience. And we're not allowing them to do that at this particular age. Unfortunately, we want to love our children. And I would say Generation X, we are the parents that want to love our children and make things better for them. And in doing so, we are handicapping our children. To be
Now, do you think that is a result of, I know for me, my sister and I came home from school by ourselves. We did our little steakums, had the key around, and do you think we're like sort of inwardly traumatized by that, and we don't want that on our children, so we go the extreme with them? Because you're right, my mom, she dropped me off freshman year, and then I only saw her graduation.
That's what happens. I mean, the latchkey kid era, there were some kids put in some dangerous situations that they should not have been. And so those things that we have to look at, truly were neglect, and child endangerment. However, there were some things that really taught us how to be responsible. Responsible young people, responsible adults, and certainly age appropriate things. I've met parents that they have children who are juniors and seniors in high school, and their mindset is, oh no, I can't leave them at home by themselves. And my question is, why? What's the problem? You have to give them, options, within parameters. Okay. And that's one of the things I would say for my parents, what they did growing up. We were put in situations where I thought I was making decisions. I can make decisions on my own. But as I got older, I realized that my parents had given us choices, A, B, or C, and they knew the direction in which we could go into within those parameters. And so we're not doing that anymore. We are giving our children the answers. We're working through these things with our children versus allowing our kids to suffer the consequences. If I didn't do my homework, I had to go in and talk with the teacher and really sit down and say, hey, listen, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. The teacher may talk to my parents, and then guess what? My parents will then punish me. Now, you have parents who will go in and want to bargain and reason with teachers and say, well, can they do it later? What's the problem? Can they have a little extra time? The fish died, the dog was sick, so they come up with things and they make excuses for our kids. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But I always tell people, if you don't want to know my truth, don't ask the question of me. And so that's just what I see from one aspect and one angle. Okay. The other piece of it, when I think about youth fragility, I look at some of the things that our kids are witnessing right now. And there's so many different traumas happening in the community right now that kids are truly having to witness, losing friends at an early age to gun violence, gang interventions, bullying and stuff like that or whatever. And so they're experiencing some of those things that are also putting them in a place right now, whereas they truly are traumatized by some of the things that they see, and no one is actually dealing with it. And so instead of helping them to be able to manage their emotions, to develop resiliency, they're just kind of stuffing them away and acting as if they don't exist. And that's not how we basically heal a wound, just by acting as if it's not there.
Right. So are there any type of warning signs as a parent we should be looking for if our child is in that state of being very fragile? What are some of the warning signs?
Well, of course, you can look at some of the mental health issues that are occurring right now. When we talk about students who are going through a depression, they may have anxiety, bipolar disorder, you name it, substance abuse, when they start using substances, self-medicating. So we can start looking at those things as far as issues that are some of the warning signs for our kids.
Mm-hmm. And then and once we see these warning signs, what type of measures as a parent can we put in place to kind of avoid that?
Mm-hmm. Well, first and foremost, we have to look at, I would certainly say, access to mental health care.
Mm-hmm.
But even before that, we have to admit that there is a problem, that these things exist. Sometimes as parents, it's hard for us to swallow the fact that our child may not be perfect.
Right.
Okay? Because sometimes we're either living through our own experiences, whether they were good or bad, and we're forcing our children down that particular road. Hey, I'm a PhD, my son has to be a PhD as well. And that's not how it should be. We should allow our children to chart their own path, whatever that road is going to be. I always tell my son, I'm going to give you all of the tools that you need to build whatever you choose to live in. You can build a mansion or a shack, but whichever you choose to build, that's what you have to live in.
Oh, that's it. All right now. That's right.
Exactly. So you can go off and do whatever it is that you want to do in life, but just know that's where you have to live, within those means of your abilities and the tools that you're willing to use. Because he has access to a number of different tools, but it would be based on what he is choosing to live in and the tools he's choosing to use.
Now, as a Black male therapist, how receptive is the community in seeking services from someone of your profile?
Well, more and more people are seeking therapy from, they want a Black male therapist or, someone of their particular culture. Because one of the things that we're really pushing to do is just strengthen the area of mental health. Right now, there's this stigma about mental health, and we are working to really overcome the particular stigmas associated with mental health, especially in the African American communities. We don't want to call it what it is. I always tell the story of how my great aunt, for years always talked about her nerve pills. Baby, my nerve pills, if you were visiting. And I really didn't know what it was until I was visiting. And I stopped by to say hello to her, and she's like, "Hey, babe, grab me my nerve pills." And I reached to grab her nerve pills, and I looked at her and I was like, "That's Xanax." Oh my God, my aunt she's been dealing with anxiety all of these years. No clue. But that's what we do in terms of just being, as a community. We don't call it what it is. We basically kind of shove it off to the side, or we move Uncle Pete to the attic and act as if Uncle Pete doesn't exist, and that's the reality for us. But we have to be able to recognize when, little Johnny is feeling down. Let's look at this. It's not normal for this kid to be at a certain age and sitting in his room with no friends, not wanting to talk to anyone. Okay. You have to really identify what it is, get past that stigma and say, hey, listen, I may not be the person as a parent to talk to Johnny. I may be the problem why Johnny's like this.
Right.
Let's go ahead and get Johnny some assistance. But we have to get rid of that mentality of what happens in this house stays in this house. Really, really creating, problems for our community and our families.
Now, where do you see the role of social media with youth fragility?
I always talk about the internet, social media, and everything, whatever. It's certainly a blessing and a curse. Because now the information highway has given us access to so much, which is great in terms of research. When we do look at the flip side, kids are now having access to a number of different things that ordinarily they would not have had access to. And I would use, talk about social media. You think back, in the day when I was growing up and in school, during our time, if you got into a fight in the cafeteria, if that wasn't your lunch bell, guess what? You didn't know what happened unless somebody told you. So and so beat up so and so in the cafeteria. This person punched this person, and that was it. But now it's being videotaped and it's being put out on the internet. So not only are the people who are in the cafeteria able to witness you get beat up or bullied, it's out there.
Right.
And some actually go viral. So imagine being somewhere and someone recognizes you and think, oh, you're the kid who got hit in the face with a tray in the lunchroom and slipped on the Jell-O. I remember that. That was so funny. And guess what? You're thinking, that's not funny. I was hurt by that.
Right. Or the belief that a lot of people saw it, because that's where your mindset is. Now, maybe only 10 people saw it, if that, but you're thinking, oh my God, all these people, I know they saw it because everybody's on social media, everyone's looking. And that's the thing, because I remember when I was in school, 3 o'clock, you did a 3 o'clock, and then it was just your class, and that was it, if that. But now it's magnified, whereas it's 300 people, 600 people, 900 people. And the internal impact that has on a child's development is just, oh my God, I'm just, oh my gosh. Now, what type of evidence-based interventions do you use when you're working with children, the families? What do you use in your practice?
Well, for me, I use CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay. And it works well in terms of being able to work with kids, helping them to identify, their particular strengths and all, and understand their negative thought patterns and things like that, or whatever, helping them to realize that, guess what? Even though it may be out there, many people may not even remember, many people may not even have seen it or even bother to have any real value, as relates to the video that they may have seen or whatever the situation is. And so that's where CBT really is, very, very, useful. And the same thing with dialectical behavior therapy, which is a specific form of, CBT pretty much. And it incorporates some of the behavioral types of things that helps to reduce things like cutting and more self-harm types of behaviors with kids. So that's definitely, helpful. When you talk about suicide, there are a number of different suicidal programs out there, ideation programs out there that schools can utilize, like Signs of Suicides, the SOS program, which is a school-based initiative, a school-based prevention program. But the big piece is when you have programs like that, especially incorporating that into the schools, you have to create that sense of awareness whereby teachers are able to identify signs, not necessarily become therapists, but to identify signs when Billy looks a little different. He's off his game today. Something's going on. And can send Billy to the school counselor or behavioral specialist or interventionist in the building just to do a wellness check with Billy.
Right.
And it's okay to have those checks done, because it's best to ask the question, are you feeling suicidal, versus thinking back after Billy has attempted suicide or committed suicide and say, hey, listen, he didn't look like himself. He was a bit off the other day. I should have asked the question.
Now, how long have you been practicing?
Oh, wow. See, now I got to break out my fingers. I think I've been licensed since 2011. I think it's been,
And since 2011, let's around that time.
In 2011. been 2001. I think it's been 2001. So it's
All
been,
right. So since that time, have you seen a difference in the youth in terms of them dealing with situations, or have you seen a difference?
Yeah, and I will say yes, I have. And like I was saying earlier, just in terms of dealing with some of the helicopter parenting and all, we're not allowing our kids to make healthy decisions and putting them in a position. Something as simple as ordering their own food from the menu when they go out to eat, instead of just saying you're going to eat this, you're going to eat that. Letting the kid decide, hey, I want chicken nuggets, or and actually verbalizing that themselves. This is what I want, and so at a time when kids were able to advocate for themselves, I like this or I want that or whatever, it's now a place where mom and dad are saying, this is what you're going to do, this is what you're going to do. And we're not putting our kids in a place to really look at their own abilities to think through things and make decisions.
Now, what do you think are the long-term effects of being reared like that in terms of when they become an adult? How do you see what patterns can emerge?
Well, the reality is we're going to start to witness some of this in the job market, because when you look at some of the challenges right now, whereas they're jobs that are hard to fill, and it really will impact the workforce, because now, whereas you're expecting someone to come in to be able to manage the day-to-day, to take on a leadership role and stuff like that or whatever, it's very hard. And so we're having to really train people in the workforce to do more and to be able to get the job done and make decisions, critical decisions that are necessary. So it's going to step us back just a little bit to get us where we need to be. It's doable, but it's happening at a later stage at this point.
Dr. Lisa,
Yeah.
You want to take a quick break and then we can show that that video?
Yes. So we'll be right back.
Okay.
After this break. Stay with us.
All right.
Enough, she went on to tell the publication that she's super proud seeing Blue Ivy perform with her mom. Now, I can't help, that's a little bit of shade, okay? Because everybody knows Blue Ivy was very stiff up there. I said, Beyonce just gonna tell this girl that she got it. We've seen 13-year-old girls from the hood out dancing hula hoop, huh? I like Blue Ivy. I think she's beautiful. I think she's going to be a model. Her mama already has her life being set up, but her mama has to be honest with her and tell her the truth. I need Beyonce to take a day trip back down to Houston. I need her to take a trip to the projects. All right? Her local rec center, local Boys and Girls Club. Leave Blue Ivy down there for 1 week. And let's see if she's able to loosen up. Okay? Because put her in a all hood cheerleading camp. You know there's the black cheerleaders and the white cheerleaders. I got a feeling she over there with the white cheerleaders, the Catholic cheerleaders. They're not supposed to bend over all the way. They're supposed to do this. They're not supposed to booty hole brown. They're supposed to. But the black cheerleaders go bend over. I just think Blue Ivy just needs a little bit of tweaking, okay? Maybe next tour. But if I'm paying $2,000 to see, I don't want to see a robot up there. She looked like the iRobot that be vacuuming my floors.
Okay, so you all know who that is.
It's gossip, bitch.
That was Tasha K, at it again, the queen of cyberbullying, talking about an 11-year-old who's on stage dancing. And this is why we have these issues, because of people like her. What is her problem? The whole bullying aspect to social media is really out of control. Like what you said, it's a blessing as well as it's a curse. And I think when you get to a place where you are speaking negatively about a child, and millions of people can see this, because that's going to go viral, it plays a major impact with that child. Now we can say, okay, her father's a billionaire, her mother's a millionaire, so what, blah, 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 blah. But there's still a soul that child has. You know, money does not matter. Money, I mean, basically, you know. So what are your thoughts about stuff like this? Because this is a contributing factor, I think, to the of youth.
And it's sad that an adult will take that role and that approach with a child. That's the piece. Yeah. But you also have to ask yourself, what happened in that adult's life that they must attack a child? No matter what, children are off limits. You know, that's it. You can talk about Beyonce all day long because she's an adult. She has the money and the financial means to come back and get you the way you got. Okay. To talk about her child, you know, that's terrible. And that's basically what's happening when you talk about social media and what's going on. You know, the poor behaviors of adults are being modeled by, you know, that they're modeling for our children, and our children are basically becoming what they see. And so you have to look at that and make that particular change. And now that you have access to millions of people and on the internet and people wanting to be influencers and things like that, they're going to give you that shock value of, you know, I can say this and I can do that, and it's going to garner the attention, because guess what? We may have some sponsors that are actually going to pay for this spot to hear this kind of garbage. You know,
You're right.
That's the reality of it all. And so it all started when you had shock jocks on the radio just trashing people, celebrities, and whoever else they could do that with. Now you have people doing the same thing on the internet, and it's, you know, it's really creating problems within our society. So I think we can look at what we used to do. When I was in school, you had opinion books and slam books and stuff like that or whatever. But then you also had situations where you told jokes. I think when you know, my parents were young, it was, you know, it's called playing the dozens or whatever. People just say what they had to say, but it was all fun and games. It was, you know, they were jokes basically. But it has now been amplified by 1,000 when you're talking about how it's being portrayed on the internet. And of course, no one, you know, not having the opportunity to come back or say anything to that person.
Right, absolutely. Producer, you have any questions?
I think that was very interesting too. Now, what do you think about like Beyonce putting her out there? Do you think she has any like culpability of putting her in that position of like, you know, putting too much pressure on her or anything?
Who are you asking, me or the doctor?
Either or. I'd like to know your opinion too, Dr. Lisa.
Go ahead, Dr. Lisa.
Okay. Well, you know, I think she is starting her out to be an entrepreneur because I'm sure she probably has established her own business and she's getting paid. She's not just doing it because of whatever. And I would hope she had a conversation with her to really ask, is this something that you would like to do? And not really force it on her and say, well, you have to do this, you better do this, you know. Or was it like, you know what, Mom, I think I want to be involved in this. So I don't know how the conversation went. Of course, I'm not privy to that. But if the daughter said, you know what, Mom, I think I'm ready for this versus you better do this. So if she went on the premise of, well, if I say that Beyonce went on the premise of you better do this, I think that's I'm not in agreement with that. But if the daughter has been around for 11 years, seen her mother, and she wants to work with her mother, you know, I would hope that Beyonce told her pretty much everything, what's going to happen. People may not like you. People may criticize you. People may whatever, but you have to get to a place whereas you're able to deal with it. Now, I don't think an 11-year-old is able to deal with it. I don't know. So, you know, it depends on what Blue Ivy, what's in her DNA, how resilient she is. Or she could be one of those kids like, well, ching ching, I just made $1.2 million. I don't care what you think because Cardi B, Tasha K's out to get your bucks. You know, I don't know. You know, that's my take.
What about you, Dr. Mason?
I totally agree. And my thing is, like you said, I would hope they had that conversation before actually putting her out on the stage, and this was something that she wants to do. And I think as a parent, you want to be able to fulfill your child's dreams.
Right.
Your child say, hey, listen, I want to go into, be the best donut maker. Okay. Hey, guess what? We're gonna take Krispy Kreme over and we're gonna make it happen. You're gonna get out there and do it, especially if you have the means to do so.
Yes.
Okay. Either way, I don't think it is appropriate, like I said, for an adult to actually come at a child like that. If anything, you want to talk about Beyonce, just say, hey, listen, we're going to talk about your parenting. Maybe you want to do this, but because like I said, Beyonce got the money and the wherewithal to come back and shut all of that down.
Okay? Exactly.
She can do all of that, but to really go out there and really talk about Blue Ivy's performance and everything or whatever, totally foul. Totally foul. And I can't support that. No way, no how, no nothing. We talk about this when my son played AAU basketball, and there were kids who were not as skilled as others, but as parents, I remember clapping just as loud for other kids who were not able to make baskets, or they did not have the best coordination or whatever, because guess what? We wanted to give those kids the encouragement that they needed. Now, once again, do I think those kids all deserve trophies at the end? No, I don't. Okay. The most valuable player, most improved player, that's who gets the trophy, and the championship team. Everybody doesn't need a trophy because they need to work hard and see that performance and abilities will get you places. And I have to improve, okay, in terms of where I am. When you have kids who get cut from sports teams, parents are right there the next day. Why did my child get cut? My child is the next LeBron James. My child is the best Allen Iverson. Ma'am, your child can't dribble the ball. Let me get your child into some camps and things like that or whatever. And so that child, if that child has that desire, let me tell you what to do, versus just saying we're going to put the child on the team. Because at the end of the day, that kid could be over on the sideline picking daisies, and you give that kid a trophy at the end of the season with the same kid who, made 15 or 20 shots. So it's like, no, we can't do that. So we have to make sure we're not setting our kids up for failure, but also we have to make sure that we are providing avenues for encouragement, and badgering these kids and doing the things that was just seen on social media. That's not the answer.
Right.
Well, now see, but there's a whole lane that's being monetized off of being coarse and being a bully and stuff. So as the same period of time where youth was getting fragile in these last couple of years, it's also become more popular to be a bully and stuff too, and to just berate people and tell them what you don't like about them, and and to be a jerk to people. And that's what Tasha K is making a lot. She's getting money off of that video.
Right.
So she's encouraged to do it.
Right. But see, that's where, like I said, Beyonce has the wherewithal to take someone to court. As a politician, people seem to think they can say whatever it is they want to say about a politician, and it's all fun and games until you hit them with a lawsuit. Then it's, oh, woe is me, I'm a poor citizen. Well, you should have thought about that before you ran your mouth.
Right. And that's what happened with Cardi B and Tasha K.
Exactly.
And the deciding factor was when she did talk about Cardi B's children. And for me, I think children are off limits, off limits. So yeah, so this is to Tasha K. I'm flushing her down the toilet.
Yes.
Flushing her down the toilet because she does not add value at all. At all to what, as mental health professionals, what we are fighting for. Like, she's so against us. It's like, oh my gosh, you're making it harder for us.
Exactly. And that's the thing people don't realize. Your actions are adding to the challenges that we're seeing. Okay. And we have to do better. Okay.
Yes.
And like I said, there's that middle ground of teaching resilience and really showing our kids how to develop the thick skin, that whole roll off your back type of thing, letting that water be like a duck and let water roll off your back. we have to get past that, because I remember as a kid, when people, my sisters would say, "Oh, so and so's talking about me," and my father would look and say, "Well, baby, they talked about Jesus Christ. Keep it moving." And that was the mindset. So long as you live, somebody's going to talk about you. But at the same time, you also have to teach kids how to stand up for themselves and advocate for themselves as well. And sometimes as an adult, we have to demonstrate that for our children and share with them, these are some strategies that you can do, and provide those resources and those tools for them to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so doctor, we are running out of time. Do you have any final last words that you would like to impart to my urbanites?
Yeah, as it relates to mental health, suicide, youth fragility, I would say definitely it's all tied back to mental health. We've got to look at how do we destigmatize mental health and not create a barrier to success. We've got to create more opportunities for mental health, create those gateways and pathways. And what's going to have to happen, we're going to have to work within our schools and challenge our school systems, because guess what? That's where our children are housed a majority of the day. Our educators are really going to have to step up to the plate and really look at what type of mental health support systems can we provide within our schools. And as citizens, we're going to have to challenge them to put the funding where it's needed. And a lot of times these services go unprovided because of the funding that's available. And so we've got to really look at how we view education and how we build our community. And we have to start there. If we're going to build strong children, we're going to have to pour money into our schools and provide the resources that they need.
Right. And I think now a lot of teachers are experiencing mental health issues. I mean, a lot of people are, I know for me, a lot of the educators, they're very burnt out. Because again, the pay, they feel that what they're up against is basically not only reading, remember back in the day, reading, writing, arithmetic, but now it's reading, writing, arithmetic, mental health stuff. Like, okay, I didn't sign up to be a counselor. I'm just supposed to be an educator. Like, oh my gosh, like their roles have increased, but their pay hasn't. And they too are getting burnt out. The whole educational school system is like, oh my gosh, like, so, and that's another show.
I'm more than happy to come back and talk about that.
Yeah, right.
That's one of the things that I push. We have to take care of our teachers, because if our teachers are not well, they cannot teach our children. One of the things that we look at within Hampton City Schools, and that gets into how do we address mental health concerns and needs. And so we had to make that a priority. So when we're talking about the kids who were struggling, trying to meet the requirements to pass the state standards of learning, and our schools can become accredited and things like that or whatever, we had to look at the fact that many of these kids that were being suspended from school, they were having behavioral issues because there were some things going on with them, whether it was trauma that they experienced or some mental health issues, some behavioral and emotional challenges. So we had to create services and programs because we wanted to keep them in school. We can't educate them when they're sitting at home suspended. So we had to create a reason for them to be in school, should I say, and programs that will keep them there. So the whole restorative justice movement came about in terms of how can we make sure that we show these kids that we're not about just being punitive, we're also about being restorative. And so that's what we had to do. The flip side to that was we have to make sure the teachers are good, because if Ms. Jones is not where she needs to be from a mentally stable place, and not just saying she may be majorly depressed or have anxiety or bipolar, just the fact that Miss Jones had to deal with her own children before she came to school to deal with 26 others.
That's right. And her husband and
exactly.
And,
so you just never know what she had to deal with on her way to school as well. And so we have to take that into account. And so not only do we have to make sure that we're providing resources for our students, we have to make sure we're providing resources for our educators as well. That's why we've got to commit to putting the money into our schools, because if you want to build strong communities, it has to start with your school system. That's it.
You heard it from the doctor himself. Dr. Richard Mason in the Urban Suite. Thank you so very much, Dr. Mason.
Thank you.
You are officially an urbanite.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you. Come back anytime. And I will reach out to you because obviously we have a lot of work to do when it comes to mental health challenges and mental illness. And we really do. And we need to work together because sometimes we get burnt out. I know I get burnt out. I mean, it's a lot working with people with schizophrenia, bipolar, blah, blah. So it's like, oh my goodness, I need that person that understands where I'm going. And I may need a therapist too. Hello.
Every therapist needs a therapist.
There you go.
Exactly. Every therapist needs a therapist.
All right. So thank you. And until next time.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. All right. Mr. Producer, why you cut him off so quick?
He was there. I just was going to you.
I'm like, where he go?
Yeah, that's another good conversation, though.
All right. So yes, that was very, very good. I'm telling you, because this is real. I'm just concerned because at the end of the day, that's the generation that will be taking care of us in like 30 years.
Yeah. So
or we'll robots, or will we have those AI?
Right? We'll just have we'll have Chat GPT,
right?
AI food vendors, machines everywhere.
Yeah, right. I'm like, okay, time to take your meds, Lisa.
Right.
Okay.
and the iRobot vacuum thing, cleaning up the house.
Yeah.
But
that's yeah. Well, my urbanites, thank you so very much for being in the Urban Suite with me, Dr. Lisa Lacan. As always, this is a place where you laugh, learn, cry, and grow. And please don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. And we will be here next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Tuesday. And you can find me on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Google Podcasts, as well as LinkedIn. So I will be, next week when I come in, I think we're going to talk about the Essence Festival.
Yeah. We have to remind everybody about that.
Yes, we have to. Yes, that was very entertaining, to say the least. So again, thank you all again. And I just want to thank my guest, Dr. Richard Mason. Fantastic guest, knowledgeable about the subject matter. Hopefully you all learned something. I know I did, as always, from my guests. And that's why I have them here in the Urban Suite. So until next time, Molly, take us away.